Today, I am trying to make the perfect chicken wing at home. I have never been able to make these right. That all changes today. To start off this chicken wing challenge, we need to try a chicken wing. It's been a long time since I've actually eaten one. Where I live, they're not all that popular. I know a place just around the corner from here that we can get a really good chicken wing that'll be the control for us to create our own at home. So we're gonna try this place, which has some pretty good wings apparently. This is what I want, buffalo wings. Let's get some of those. So these are my buffalo wings. Got a lot of sauce on it, looks really crunchy. They're really hot. Super good. The outside is really crunchy, still tender and moist. Sauce is really, really delicious. These are a really good start for our episode. Those were pretty spicy. Let's finish my beer and let's get out of here. I almost forgot how good chicken wings could be. Those were awesome. I think we have a really, really good basis for making our wing at home. For this challenge, we need to set some ground rules. You and I can get on the same page of what we're trying to achieve. Here are Matt's rules for wings. Number 1, crunchy outside. How we do that, I think there's a bunch of different ways that are going through my mind initially, but I think at the end of the day, that is one of the non-negotiables for our wing. What might make this a bit challenging is number 2 is we need a tender inside. It needs to not be overcooked. I think overcooked chicken is one of the worst things in the entire world. Finally, number 3, we need a delicious sauce. So I guess the question is, where do we get started? The simplest route that I can think of to get started is to bake our chicken wings. Let's see what a basic baked chicken wing will look like in the home kitchen. Let's start with a wire rack on top of a baking sheet. This is gonna help the air move all around the wings. Speaking of the wings, I have some drumsticks and some flats. I'm only gonna cook 4 of them in this first test, so I'll put them on the baking tray. I'm gonna set my oven to about 220 Celsius or about 425 Fahrenheit with the convection fan on, so hopefully these get crispy on the outside and cooked on the inside. So this has been going for about 15 minutes. I'm gonna flip them over and give them about another 15 minutes on the other side. After about 30 minutes in total, they look like this. They are really glassy is what I would say these look like. There's not a lot of texture to them. I'm gonna put them in a bowl, put in a little bit of hot sauce, give these a toss, and we've got our first wing. Quite crispy. They shrunk a lot in the oven, but let's give them a taste. They've got a really crispy crust. The sauce is just sort of on top of it. If you were to just take these, threw them in the oven, and you toss them in some hot sauce, it would be fine. But I don't think that's good enough for what we're after in this episode. I think the biggest problem that we have, they're really dried out, which is all right for the skin, because that means it's gonna be really crispy and crunchy and all those things that we want. You can just see, right? It is bone dry. You can hear it crunching on the outside, really dry on the inside. High heat on the outside seems to work really, really well. That same high heat is drying everything out on the inside and not giving us that perfect wing that we want. Not the greatest start to our wing challenge. Ugh. This is gonna be way harder than I thought it was gonna be. Going back to the rules that we set, pretty fair to say we don't have a crunchy wing. We have a crispy wing, we don't have a crunchy wing. We don't have a tender inside, and we don't have a delicious sauce. Not really sure what to do next. Simplest place to start is the sauce. All I did a second ago was toss the wings in Valentina sauce. Valentina sauce is delicious, don't get me wrong. When we were at Coco Vale, the sauce that we had there was called buffalo sauce. That is a little bit different than just putting hot sauce on the wings. I have a really good recipe for buffalo sauce, and I think this is the first place that we can start improving our chicken wing. I need a small pan and some hot sauce. And then I'm gonna add some butter. Equal parts butter to hot sauce. Some apple cider vinegar, some garlic powder, and some Worcester. Cayenne pepper. You want your wings hot, put in a lot of cayenne. You want them more mild, put in less. Stir that together, bring it to a simmer, and our buffalo sauce is done. Let's give it a quick try. Oh yeah, that's way better. I mean, how could this possibly be bad? It's butter and hot sauce, a few spices to make it taste a little bit better. But the first wings, they didn't really taste like a whole lot aside from crispy, dried out chicken. Let's jump back in and see if we can solve some of our problems with the wings. I gotta be careful because I'm just gonna eat this on its own. I need to set this aside. So I think the next thing we can tackle is the crunchiness on the outside. Like I said a second ago, we have a crispy wing. I think we need to make this crunchy. We want the sauce to stick to it. We want little crevices. I think there's a few things that we can do to get a really crunchy skin. One of the ways that you can make roast chicken really delicious is by drying out the skin. And we can use the fridge to do that. I didn't necessarily want to go this direction right away, but most of the time time chicken wings are fried. So I think by frying our chicken wing, we can also make it crunchier. And last but not least, we don't want to bread this chicken wing, but I think that we can use cornstarch without getting this really big coating on the outside of our wing. Let's try each of those things to see if we can get a really, really crunchy wing. We're gonna start by drying these out. So I'm going to line a plate with some paper towel and put my wings on top of that paper towel, and then put another one on top and just pat them dry. Now I'm gonna put these in the fridge to dry out.
2 hours later.
Let's take a look to see how we did. You can see on this wing, the skin is really starting to dry out. This should really help with the crunchiness factor. Now, step 2 in our plan, I'm gonna put my dried out wings into a bowl, and we're gonna add some cornstarch. No measurements here, we just want a light coating. So I'm gonna put about a tablespoon, toss them around, and they should look something like this. Now let's set up our fryer. I'm gonna use a wok and add some neutral flavored oil. I'm gonna heat that oil to about 375 or 190 Celsius and put my wings in. After about 6 minutes of frying, I'm gonna flip them over to try and get them browning on the other side. There's not a whole lot of color yet, so I'm gonna cook these for about another 6 minutes or so. Make sure you check the oil temperature to make sure the oil doesn't cool down. After 12 total minutes, I have some really nice browning, so I'm gonna take these to a paper-lined sheet, add them to a bowl, add our buffalo sauce, give them a toss, and we've got our second wing. It is certainly very, very crispy on the top. We have sort of little crunchy areas as opposed to it just being really crispy on the outside. Got sort of little crevices where the sauce can go, and it looks a lot better and a lot closer to what we were after before. Let's give it a try. So it's good. The sauce has really upped the game. Oh, it's got a little spice to it. The crunchiness on the outside, I think, is where we want it to be. They're still a little bit dry. It's like eating really crispy, fried out chicken with some sauce on it. I think we got to think a little bit more about this. So at this point, I think we have a crunchy wing on the outside. I think we've hit that using that cornstarch mixture, frying them, dehydrating the wing in the fridge beforehand. And also we have a really, really delicious sauce. Check that off as well. What we don't have is a tender and moist wing on the inside. And we need to think a little bit more about this. So I'm gonna jump on the internet and do some research. I think I have an idea. This reminds me a lot of making French fries. On a French fry, you want a really, really crispy outside and you want it to be soft and fluffy on the inside. So why don't we do what they do with French fries? The best way that I've seen to make French fries is actually boiling the French fries first and then frying them at a really, really high temperature. So how can we do that in the home kitchen? So I guess we could boil our chicken. That's certainly a way of doing it. And I think that would work okay. Sous vide is another way of doing it. That's just, really complicated, but it's gonna get our wings exactly how we want them. Why don't we pressure cook? Get them exactly how we want on the inside, and then basically repeat the exact same process that we used on wing number 2, except maybe bump up our heat so that we can get them really, really crispy in just, a couple of minutes, as opposed to them having to cook for 12 or 15 minutes. I think this is a really good idea. Let's try wing number 3, pressure cooking our wings first, and then frying them so that they're crispy and delicious second. Let's open up our pressure cooker. I'm gonna use a steamer basket that just goes inside, and this keeps the water separate from the wings. Speaking of which, add some water and then put our wings into the steamer basket. Once they're in, the pressure cooker locks. It's gonna go over high heat. I'm gonna wait for the little ball to rise up, indicating it's at pressure. There we go. I'm gonna let these pressure cook for 15 minutes.
A few moments later.
Turn off the heat and let this depressurize naturally. A little ball will drop. Took about 10 minutes for me. And let's get our wings out of the pressure cooker. Should be a lot of steam in there, so be careful opening it up. I'm gonna use some tongs just to take out the wings and put them on a paper-lined sheet. And like before, these are going in the fridge to dehydrate. We are almost there. The wings have been in the fridge for 2 hours. Remember, they are perfectly cooked on the inside. All we need to do now, repeat what we did on wing number 2 and fry them, this time at a higher heat. So let's jump in the kitchen, but let's do it cinematic and make our last wing. There's no competition anymore. Outside is crunchy. The sauce is sticking to it. The sauce is great, but this time the inside is just spectacular. It's sort of fall off the bone tender. See it here. It's really, really good. This is the perfect wing. This is it. That's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed following along as I make the perfect wing in the home kitchen. Enjoyed this video, probably like these ones as well. See you next time.